Welcome to another post-series review. Now, these aren't supposed to be any sort of critical or analytical look into whatever game I happen to be talking about. It is straight up just me blabbering on about whatever game I just finished editing. I mean, it's all scripted, so there is structure to this, but just know that this is more casual final thoughts about a game than anything else. This time in particular, I'm going to spend the first part of the video talking about some personal things. It's just behind the scenes about what it took to finally get the Monster Hunter Stories series out. Then the rest will be about the actual game itself. Feel free to skip forward if you just want the portion about the game. Alright, let's get started. If you want to learn how to be a better streamer, then my Monster Hunter Stories series is an absolute masterclass on what not to do! Holy crap, that was a pain-inducing torture fest trying to edit those streams. Bad enough that I got a real touch of the tism when editing, but it's even worse when you've grown so much as a content creator and you're looking back on old recordings where you are objectively worse at everything you're trying to do. Let's take a second and rewind. The newest version of Monster Hunter Stories released on modern platforms on June 14th, 2024. I was looking forward to this game and decided I would stream the entirety of it. At this point in time, I wasn't a stranger to streaming, but it was rare that I would stream on my own, and I had also never really streamed an entire game before. So new territory for me, and it was definitely going to be a challenge. It's also relevant to mention that during this period, MostlyPositive was a channel that was focused on video essays. I certainly had the skills to write and edit, but not to entertain in a live format. Believe me when I say this, ever since I started content creation, I can't watch a single video anymore without analyzing how the creator does certain edits, or how they choose to structure their videos, or how they decide to flow from topic to topic. This was the type of stuff that was running through my head constantly because I wanted to integrate the best practices and best aspects into my own videos. Unfortunately, this has absolutely nothing to do with live streaming and being a better live entertainer. Because the channel was focused on video essays, I never considered to analyze the live aspect of certain content I watched. So I went into streaming Monster Hunter Stories as a complete amateur, and it shows. Oh, it shows. Let's start with the fact that this is a story-heavy game with a ton of cutscenes, which are now voiced. Many people would have you think that if you're streaming, that you should react to literally everything. Nuh-uh. No thanks. Not for cutscenes. I'm here to try to enjoy the game too, and I'm not looking to try to focus on throwing out a quip for any little thing that happens on screen. There's a difference between that and having a genuine reaction. Genuine reactions, I think, are perfectly fine. Taking over cutscenes just to talk? Nah, that's annoying. The only exceptions to this rule is if you're playing with friends and just shooting the shit, or if you're replaying a game you featured on the channel before. At that point, it's whatever. Throwing out a joke once in a while is fine, but talking over the whole thing is just too much. Anyways, I feel extremely self-conscious about this. I kept thinking, crap, this is probably really boring for anyone who pops in. One of the few things I did correct was take the genuine reactions route, and then it would immediately fall apart if anyone was in chat. If someone was in chat, I gave them priority over the cutscenes, and that was a huge mistake in my eyes that I didn't realize until I finally started editing those streams. I annoyed myself that I was essentially talking over these cutscenes. Fortunately, editing magic allowed me to either delete the commentary entirely or just shift it to where it's no longer interrupting a cutscene. Thank God for that. Otherwise, this series would have been a bigger disaster than it already was. And to be clear, if talking over every cutscene is your style and it works for you and your audience, more power to you. It's your game, it's your stream, you run the show. It's just not my style, and I want to be true to myself. Again, with this being a JRPG, there is a ton of reading involved, most of which I fucking muttered or read to myself in silence or mashed through because I got the gist of what was being said. No! As a viewer, that is so insanely obnoxious. While editing every time this happened, I was like, what the hell, me? Do you even care? You know what makes JRPGs so great to stream? All the reading. There's so much reading. Even if you're not an entertaining individual, at least the game's got you covered because there's so much goddamn reading. Literally, all you have to do is just read it out loud in a clear voice. It's that simple. You're already ahead of the game if you can do that much. Double unfortunately, I was just muttering in general. If the audio sounded weird during a good chunk of the series, it's because I had to boost myself so much just to be heard semi-clearly. And beyond that, I was hardly saying anything during battles. It was just a fucking nightmare overall. The only time I felt like I did an okay job was when there was someone in chat, which is awesome. That's definitely something you want to be comfortable with. But if you're a no-name streamer like me, then it's rare to have someone chatting at all, and it's imperative that you learn how to entertain even when no one is watching. Believe it or not, there's actually a saving grace to this story. I don't remember this, but apparently I stopped streaming the game for a long while after the 4th stream. When I started editing the 5th stream, there was an insane shift in quality. Everything that I've mentioned that I was doing wrong, suddenly I was significantly better. I was actually speaking clearly. I was reading a majority of what was coming across, doing my best to commentate during battles, and just generally keeping the energy up as much as I could throughout the stream. Nothing was perfect, but at the very least, it seemed like I was just a completely different streamer. It felt like I actually wanted to be there and play the game, as opposed to before where it seemed like I was just extremely depressed. Well, I mean, I was, but when it's stream time, baby. I gotta throw that shit in the back burner. In any case, I know why there was such a shift. Between stream 4 and 5, I played through the entirety of Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. For the longest time, I've been crediting that game as making me a significantly better streamer. For now, I'll leave it at that. That's a story to tell in the Dragon Quest III post-series review. I had completely forgotten that I had picked stories back up after the Dragon Quest III streams. My mind was blown away when I looked at the date of the stream recordings. Stream 4 was June 28th, and Stream 5 was December 10th. The finale was the 6th stream, and I kept that momentum up. I felt like it was a pretty great stream. Until I realized I was muted for over an hour, which was the final area of the game, the final boss, and the final cutscenes. Yup, I royally fucked up. Oh, God, I cannot explain to you the absolute anguish I felt when I realized I was muted. A part of me died that day, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I've been sitting on this playthrough for so long. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but that might be the biggest. I've genuinely been thinking about how I wanted to deal with this series every single day. Those files just taking up an outrageous amount of space on my hard drive. It wasn't something I was just willing to delete and forget about, and thank God I didn't. That playthrough shows who I was in a certain moment in time. And then it sort of just skips to who I became almost half a year later when I decided to pick it back up. But when I go back and watch these videos, I can cringe in happiness about how bad I was at the start and see that drastic jump in how much I improved. And I'll keep going, and I'll keep getting better, and I hope some folks join me for more adventures to come. That's it for the first part. Let's talk about the game. I love Monster Hunter stories. I really, truly, genuinely love Monster Hunter stories. I love the extreme departure to an anime art style. Monster Hunter typically goes for realism, but the transition to this childlike, chibi style simply works. Monsters, characters, and armor look fantastic. The world is vibrant and beautiful, and it's pretty damn big. This is a 3DS title. It blew me away with how gorgeous everything looked back then and the scale of the open areas, especially when you're flying. And seeing this 3DS title being given that modern glow up blows me away today. It fills me with so much joy seeing Monster Hunter games drop on Steam, but this one came out of left field. I mean, first off, we pretty much never get Monster Hunter remakes. I mean, it's happened twice, Monster Hunter G on the Wii and a game called Monster Hunter Diary Poca Poca Feline Village DX on the 3DS, both of which were Japanese exclusive, and the latter was made by From Software. Yes, the Dark Souls guys made a game about cute felines. Go look up footage, it's pretty hilarious. And that's it, just those two games. As for HD ports, where it's basically just an up-resed version of the game, there's Monster Hunter 3G, known as 3 Ultimate everywhere else, which originally released on 3DS in Japan, and the Wii U version released a year later. The rest of the world got both versions right away. Then there's Portable Third, a Japanese exclusive which originally released on PSP and got a PS3 version the following year. As far as I'm aware, Monster Hunter Stories would be the first remaster, not just a simple HD port, but an enhanced version of the game which added content or features. In this case, the two biggest additions would be voice acting, which technically was in the original, but it was all Monster Hunter language, and the second being the inclusion of all the updates that were originally Japanese exclusive, both of which I was insanely excited for. I was always bummed out that we missed out on the Fated 4 back then, and after looking at the full Monsty list, well, I guess I'm equally bummed out today, but maybe that's for another video since I've yet to play that extra content. I'm really here just to talk about my experiences with the main game. This version of Stories isn't the first time we've seen voice acting in the spin-off series, again, not including Monster Hunter Language. It actually started with Stories 2. Well, it would be more accurate to say it started with the Stories anime, but oddly enough, we got a complete cast change. So for simplicity's sake, let's just say it started with Stories 2. For what little I played, it was neat. I was insanely thrown off by Naviru's voice. It sounded a bit too silly. I dropped off from the game pretty early on for no particular reason, but when the Stories 1 remaster was announced, I was pretty much all in. For whatever reason, it's just easier for me to replay a game than it is to play something new. As stupid as that sounds, maybe it's the comfort of familiarity. In any case, right off the bat, with the very first cutscene, I was completely sold on the addition of voice acting. Personally, it's rare for me to feel the impact of voice acting if I can't understand the language itself. Sure, acting can sound good, but if you don't actually know the language, then you're hardly a reliable judge of how well the performance is. Which is why I always found it beyond retarded when people insist on sub over dub because the Japanese voices are superior, when an overwhelming majority of these people don't even understand the language. You know damn well it's an extremely loud minority of people doing this. Anyways, my point is, having Monster Hunter Language is extremely nice, but it's not much of a step up from having no voices at all. At least in the case of a story-heavy JRPG with a ton of meaningful dialogue. In the case of the main series, I think it was perfectly fine for the classic titles. Monster Hunter Stories was never a game I particularly loved. I played the 3DS demo and enjoyed my time, bought it on release way back in the day, and just like Stories 2, I kinda just dropped it. To be fair though, the game was released outside of Japan in late 2017. The whole world had Switch fever, and it was an incredible year for games. It wasn't until Stories 2 was announced that I decided to dust off the old 3DS and power through the game. It was an overall enjoyable experience, and thanks to ending up with 2 copies of the game because of a screw up on my part and Amazon just sort of accepting my stupidity, no questions asked, I was able to play the game with the Zelda crossover content. So, Epona's Amonstie, Link's outfit, the Master Sword, and Naviru's Skull Kid Majora's Mask outfit. Overall, my time with the original game was solid, but nothing I felt I could call special. I want to make it extremely clear, the added voice acting completely changed the experience. I mean, it's still Monster Hunter Stories through and through, but suddenly the characters felt alive and I actually cared for them. Lilia in particular, her performance was beyond fantastic, and you know what? Honestly, same case with Naviru. I hated his voice the first time I heard it in Stories 2, but with time I got used to it, and here in Stories there were so many moments where he shined, and shined even brighter because of the actor's performance. Even though this was my second time playing this game, I felt way more empathetic towards these characters. Even though I knew what was gonna happen, I felt way more invested in the story. In terms of story alone, it almost felt like I was playing the game for the first time. That's how different it felt to me, despite being the exact same game, just with understandable voices this time. Hearing Dan's excitement towards the player's growth and accomplishments made me feel excited. Naviru's whimsical nature was fun and genuinely made me laugh multiple times. Lilia's loving and caring nature towards the player and Cheval made me care more. Cheval screaming mama hit so much harder compared to when watching the original cutscene. Man, Avinia, Simone, Debly, Dr. Manelger, the numbers, even freaking Itsy Bits were all great. Pansy was so goddamn adorable, but special shout out to Roberto. When I heard his voice in one of the Stories 2 trailers, I hated it. I hated it even more than when I heard Naviru's voice the first time. But here's the thing, turns out he's such a lovable character. I'm telling you, you really just connect with any character more just by simply hearing their voices. It makes a genuine difference, and in the end, Roberto's voice just became part of his charm. Dr. Manelger felt more like a menacing villain thanks to his performance rather than just the simple cartoon character I originally perceived him to be. Itsy Bits is literally just a cartoon character, but the delivery of some of his lines was perfect. Before, Simone was a nothing character to me, but hearing her performance, I was like, oh wait, I actually like her. I mean, she kind of looks like she'd be a bitch, so I kind of imagined her talking like a bitch, but the actress's performance kind of just changed her completely to me. I could genuinely blabber on for much longer than I already have about this, but I just want to convey how much of a game changer the addition of voice acting was. Stories. And I want to remind you that Stories was originally just an okay game to me. Now I can honestly say that I love it, despite its one extremely major flaw: the gameplay. The number one, absolutely unequivocally most important part of any game. Yeah, it's kind of not great here. Stories is a JRPG series. I love JRPGs, easily one of my favorite genres. I love Pokemon. A Monster Hunter version of Pokemon sounds like an absolute blast, until you get into a battle and realize it's literally rock, paper, scissors in the worst possible way. Which I understand that's how Pokemon is kind of described as, you know, grass beats water, water beats fire, fire beats grass. That aspect of it is here too. Power beats technical, technical beats speed, speed beats power. Then there's the elemental advantages, but it's harder to wrap your head around since the game doesn't make it too clear what works on what. No, the worst aspect of rock, paper, scissors that Monster Hunter carries forward is the chaotic randomness of it all. For the majority of any given battle, you have no control over your monstie. They do whatever the fuck they want unless you give them an order to do a special move. Except the move costs kinship, and if you don't have enough kinship, then you have to build it up by simply fighting. Some monsters you can predict what type of move they'll do. Sometimes you can tell that a monster will focus on technical moves. Okay, awesome. You can throw out a monstie that mostly uses power moves to have an advantage. It all falls apart when either monster starts doing random shit that you don't expect them to do. It's especially frustrating when it's your monster doing the random shit. Then you're left wondering, what the fuck, dude? I thought you were a power monster. Why the hell do you keep using speed attacks? That's the experience throughout the entire game, and my complaint would be completely null and void if you could just control your monstie. It's just insanely dumb, but not so frustrating to completely ruin the experience. The next thing I don't like, and I'll be super quick about this one, is the rite of channeling mechanic. I think there are two factors as to why I don't like this. It is objectively confusing, and I'm also a dum-dum. This could probably all be fixed if I just looked up an in-depth guide explaining it all, but I don't feel like it. I plan on 100%ing this game one day, so I expect to have to actually learn it at some point, but for a casual playthrough that takes about 30 to 35 hours, if you don't like the mechanic, then you literally don't have to deal with it, which is good, but at the same time, it makes you feel like you're missing out on a larger portion of the game. My very last complaint is Rathalos. Oh my god, why make a monster collecting game and put the focus entirely on a single monster? For example, if Lagiacrus is my favorite monster, then why in the world would I want bitch-ass Rathalos to overshadow him at every step of the way? In every cutscene and every battle. You can't even get rid of Ratha until you beat the game, so he's just always gonna get XP and always be the strongest in your party. It looks like that's the same case in Stories 2 with Razorwing Rathalos, and funnily enough, Stories 3 was announced while I was editing this series. And it looks like you're just gonna have an entire party full of Rathaloses alive forced on you. It's just dumb. It's so dumb. Anyways, that's pretty much it for what I didn't like about the game. If it weren't for the fact that you can play battles in triple speed, I would probably be far more negative on it. But it's a JRPG, so you can just kind of grind till you feel like a god, so it does mitigate some of the issues. I did love being able to make my own armor and weapons. Just like regular Monster Hunter, it's a blast hunting a monster for the first time and coming back to the smithy to check out the new gear. For whatever reason, the devs decided to only have 4 weapon types: greatsword, sword and shield, hammer, and hunting horn. While that does suck, I imagine they wanted their first foray into the JRPG genre to be a little more simple. Is what it is, honestly, no biggie, considering the main gameplay boils down to menu selection. That being said, when you're not selecting menus, you're out in the big wide world, running, flying, swimming around, fighting monsters, going into dens, searching for some babies, searching for some poogies, and all of that is a blast. Real quick, I just wanted to mention some things that I noticed while editing that stood out to me. In the cutscene in Gildigarn where you reunite with Ratha, it's just a good cutscene all around, but this cutscene in particular, I noticed how excellent the mocap work was. Specifically in the shot where Roberto was trying his best to hold back the other hunters, and ultimately the hunters overpowering him. I really love Capcom's mocap work. If you've never seen it, it's such an eye-opening thing seeing familiar motions done in real life. I remember Devil May Cry 5 having a mode where a lot of the cutscenes were replaced with the real-life mocap footage. That was pretty damn cool. Another thing I noticed was in the cutscene where Menelger captures you in a cage. Itsy Bits is the star in this cutscene, but you're so focused on everyone else and he's so much in the background that you don't even notice that he's doing the classic Monster Hunter hula dance, he's prancing and shadowboxing to taunt you. And, well, that's pretty much it. That's all for now. I've said my piece, and maybe I'll come back if I decide to cover the postgame on the channel. Putting these videos out feels like a ginormous weight has been lifted off my shoulders. It's genuinely something that's been haunting me for so long. But I'm not in the clear yet. Monster Hunter was just half of that nightmare. Dragon Quest III is up next, and the only reason I'm even mentioning it is because it's already done. When the finale releases, expect another post-series review soon after. This is all a transitionary period for the channel, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing or becoming a member of the channel, and follow me on Twitch for more of my shenanigans. Most importantly, hit up the Discord where you can keep up with all my projects, uploads, and live streams. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and ride on!